it's Kylie again from Sam Altoona, and today our art lesson is going to revolve around making something from basic shapes. So it's a really cool skill. What you'll be learning is how to take a cup or a mug and build it from the basic shapes like rectangles and circles or cylinders and create a mug from that. For today, what you'll need, sorry, I stuttered a little, but for today what you'll need is paper, pencil, and grab a cup or mug, whatever you want to use, and you'll be putting it just right in front of you and looking at that for your example today. I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to put on a little bit of music because we're in my kitchen and you can hear my air conditioner, and I'll wait for a minute while you guys grab your stuff. I just have Pandora on. Alright, and also if you have like a regular pencil like this, I always try to have a pencil sharpener with it because I tend to use that thing up real quick. And then you can also grab an extra eraser too if you need. This was a triangle at one point, but it is now that shape. And I just grabbed 2 mugs just so that you guys can see you can grab any type of cup or mug that you need. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm actually going to use this black mug, but I grabbed this as an example. If you're using a mug like this or a cup that has that tilt, I'll be discussing that here in a minute, okay? So, there we go. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to start out, you're going to look at the basic shape. So what you see the most of is a rectangle, actually. Even though you don't think you do, you do, because what is the basic shape right here will help you build upon that. So sometimes I like to measure with my pencil, but you can just kind of eyeball it for today. That's fine. And try to draw light. I tend to draw a little dark still, even though it's not the best habit. And plus I'm going to draw a little darker than I usually would so that you guys can see the pencil lines. Alright, so we'll just start out by making a general rectangle. There we go. Sorry, I have Pandora on and it has ads. There we go. And then, if you have a hard time drawing a straight line, that's okay. You can grab a ruler if you need it, or another piece of paper to help you draw the line. What I tend to do when I'm drawing straight lines is I just do this kind of scratchy method that helps you to do that. I'm going to erase that though. There we go. Alright, now that you have that square down, or rectangle, or anything, you can start on the rest of the mug. Now, if you're doing a mug or a cup like this, make sure that you have the rectangle as wide as the biggest part of your cup, because that'll help you out the most, okay? So, I'm going to start. You're going to break this down now into 2 more circles, and the circles are going to go into the square. Sorry, I'm adjusting my camera because it was a little weird. So you want to make sure it's inside the square, and they're not going to be perfect circles. Like they're going to be kind of ovals. You want to make sure they're more narrow on the sides and a little bit bigger here, okay? And if it's not perfect, that's okay. This is the whole point of this process. There we go. All right, so now that you have that down, there's one more basic shape that you need to draw. It's going to be more of an oval, almost an egg shape. If you have a handle like this, it's going to be especially an egg shape. If you have a handle like this, it'll be more almost like a triangle, to be honest, just a rounded triangle, okay? And while you're drawing, it's okay to have it seem really liney. So if you notice, I have multiple lines going around. It actually helps you place the object, and then as you cement the shape and get it better, then you start darkening it more. So that is the basic shape of the handle right there. And if you want to draw the whole shape out, you can, if that helps you out. I just drew a part of the shape. It makes it a little easier for me because sometimes if I get too many lines overlapping, I get a little confused myself. All right, so next, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go through and start cementing down, or studying down. I should use a different word than cementing because this is paper. But what you're going to do is you're going to darken the lines of the object itself from these shapes now. So these lines will get darkened now. And say you notice there's something off, you can actually fix that as well. Like I noticed the bottom, I actually didn't make, like to what I'm seeing, I didn't make the cylinders the way I wanted them. So I'm actually going to fix that a little now. Alright. So on the top of your mug, you're going to use most of that oval that you made because it's an open surface. So you are going to utilize this whole circle. But for the bottom, you're only utilizing the bottom half. There we go. And then I'm going to darken this up. Okay, and let me know if you have any trouble seeing the pencil on the paper. If you do, I can try to draw darker, or I can grab a marker or something. I always use pencil because it's easier to like take away marks that you don't like. I'm going to draw the inside of this because I realized I forgot that on the handle. So it's about the same general basic shape. And there we go. So then you should have your basic outline for your mug right there then. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I still have my square and my circle. I'm actually going to erase those at this point now. Okay. And I'll erase this part. And this is why I always recommend having a second eraser too, because I feel like this pencil's eraser might die throughout this. It might not though. With pencils, I run through erasers very quickly. There you go. I'm gonna get rid of a few of the lines around it and clean it up a bit. And it'll actually help your shape become a little bit more cohesive. If you guys have any questions too, feel free to comment. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. leave that there because that'll help me shade actually. And then the last thing that you want to work on is you want to put the line behind your mug if you can see it. If not, that's okay. You don't have to put one, like that is not necessary. And if you go a little bit through, that's okay. I'm gonna flip this for a sec. If you need to move around your paper or your notebook, feel free to. I actually find that really helps me when I'm drawing or painting or anything, because for one, sometimes if you turn it upside down, it actually helps you see if you got your shape right, because for some reason something just kind of clicks. You're like, oh, that's not quite what I wanted. But also it helps with your hand too. So if you do it where it's comfortable for your hand, it eases the wear on the muscles. Even though drawing and painting aren't always like the most labor intensive on your hands, sometimes it can actually really help and be a healthy habit to turn your canvas or your paper around. There we go. And then that's what I have. So next what we're going to focus on is shading. It's not going to be too hard. You might want to grab a paper towel, a tissue. You can also use your fingers too, because when you shade, we'll like rub it down to soften it. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. So what I'm going to start with, I like to just kind of hatch it a little bit whenever I'm shading. I think that's the easiest way. I forgot one step because I'm just excited, but you want to identify where your light source is coming from. So mine is coming from almost directly above me. So you can draw an arrow on your paper to remind yourself which way the light source is hitting. Sometimes your light source can hit this way, and if your light source is hitting from this side or it's hitting from above, then your darker shadows are probably going to be towards the bottom or towards the side. So always keep that in mind. There we go. I'm making this dark because your opening for a mug usually has the darkest part. And then I make right here a little bit darker. And then what I do is I just take my finger and I kind of shade it through. Be careful because that can actually blister your hand if you do it too much. I just have really tough hands though, so I do that. That's why you can also use a tissue or a paper towel to do that too. And then that softens your shadow and also makes it blend together better. I'm going to add a little bit more here. And then as you're playing around with the shadow, you can add more or less as you go. So there we go. And the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the shadow throughout. And again, my light source is coming from above, so my darker shadows, even though it's a little hard to see on my mug, I should have used a lighter mug probably. Your shadows are actually darker down here. And I just do really light lines whenever I start shading. And there's a little lip on my cup that I'm gonna try to show. Then I'm going to go through and start smearing out those shadows a little bit. That way they blend throughout your piece. I think that's about good. So I'm going to do the handle too. And say you accidentally smear your pencil outside the line, that's okay. You can always go back through with your eraser later. Clean it up, like that. I need to actually make that a little bit more like that. And then as you go, feel free to fix anything that you think might be off or a little bit weird. I always tend to do that. There we go. So then you have the basic shading on your mug itself. Next, you want to look at the shadow right underneath, so right here, if you have one. If your light source is coming from like a different angle, that'll affect the way your shadow goes. So luckily enough, mine's actually going pretty much straight down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really light, line and try to start making the shape that I used up here, because that'll help me out. So I'm going to try not to go into the mug. There we go. So it does that. And if it starts to fade out towards the bottom, you can just leave it at that. But if it's a very solid shadow, you want to do the whole, you want to do your whole shape. So you want to do the square and then do the circle inside of it again. And this can be a little bit messier because shadows, they tend to blend out, or they tend to become softened. So it's okay to have it a little bit wonky. And then what you want to do once you have your shape down, I'm going to erase that there and erase that there. And once you have your shape down, you're going to go through and just color that shadow. My shadow is darkest right up here for me. So it's usually darkest right underneath the object that you're doing. So you're going to darken it right underneath it as much as you can. And then you're going to continue putting your graphite onto your paper. Until you feel like you have enough. Then what you're going to do right through that is you're going to go ahead and just smear that all together. Smudge it, blend it. And see how it softens towards the sides? That's why it doesn't matter if it's your shadow itself below it is a little messy, because you can actually kind of fix it as you're smearing. I'm going to make this a little darker as well. And say you don't like something about your shadow or something else about your piece, but since it's almost done, you're a little nervous to go in with your eraser. I do this thing where I just kind of dab it instead of, like, just gently dab it instead of going through and taking it across the page, because it actually makes it a lot easier to control it, and then you can fix what you've done. I don't know if everyone else does that. That's just a trick I do. There we go. And then I like how that's going. I noticed that. There we go. And as you're going, I tend to have my hand on the paper. Try not to as much as you can, because eventually your hand will get messy. It's not super messy, but a little bit. And make sure to wash your hands after this. So now, since we're towards the end, what we're going to do is we're going to add a few highlights with our eraser now. So if you notice, my mug reflects a few different places. So we're gonna try to add that with our eraser. And what you do is you just look generally where you see it. And you just do it really gently. And you go through. It's kind of like drawing with it. And it's really fun. And then you can see how the shines are starting to come out. I'm gonna actually smear that a little bit more because I didn't put enough graphite there. There we go. This is like one of my favorite songs. And say you accidentally erase too much, just go back through and add a little bit more back with your pencil. That's okay. And again, kind of see it as an extension of drawing. This needs to be darker. And then as you're just finishing up, feel free to fix things as you do. I highly encourage trying to grab whatever you can. If you have even your pencil sharpener, or you have an iPad, a remote, whatever, feel free to grab those things and practice and see what kind of shapes you see out of them. Like if you look at this, it's kind of like a triangle actually, triangle or square. And just practice this on your own time at home. It's kind of fun. If you notice, sometimes too, you might have a second shadow behind. That's because you have multiple light sources. I just realized the light from my window is actually hitting this. It's a lot more apparent in the video than it is in real life, and I have more of a shadow behind. So I'll add that in just really quick. And it's not very formed, so you can kind of play around with the shape a little bit more if you have one of these shadows. There we go. And there you have it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments. Let's see what you made. If you want to color this and use colors after you've drawn it, feel free to do so. I absolutely love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm going to turn the camera around here, I think, while I tell you guys a few more things right before we end this video. All right. Hi there. Sorry, I'm in my kitchen, so it's a little, but feel free to leave a comment down below with a picture of what you've made, and it could actually get into our Gallery a Go-Go, which is coming up June 15th to June 30th, or if you've done any other artwork from any of our other art lessons, feel free to email us at altoona@sama-art.org. If you enjoy our art lessons, please give us a donation. If you can't, that's fine, just keep watching us. I'll leave a link down below if you would like to donate though. And again, try to practice this at home with other things, like you can use your trash can, you can use your smartphone, you can use TV, anything to do these kind of things. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll be seeing you later.